Professor Kumar Mohanty, Director, Professor Sarveshwar Mohanty, all the esteemed faculty members, and my dear students. I am extremely happy and honored to be in your midst this evening. It is always indeed something very enlivening and instructive for me also to be with the student community. Because ultimately we are all students. Till our last breath we are students. We may be teaching, but we are also studying, we also learn. Life is an exploration, endless exploration of divine knowledge. And ultimately our search for perfection has to continue regardless of our material circumstances. Economics and business plays a very important role in human society. Without economics, without business, there can be no functional human society. There must be generation of wealth, and there must be distribution and utilization of wealth. This is what makes the society move and sustain. But that is not all. If that were the only criterion, that money has to be generated, distributed, and then spent, human society would have been a very blissful place. But it is fraught with so many problems. So there is something missing here. And that something missing is a very important spiritual, dharmic dimension, which is very important for all of us to keep track of in our search for happiness, in our search for success, and even in search of business or economic development. The word dharma is very important. It has many connotations, and it is a subject in itself that will take on hours to discuss. But in a very succinct manner, if one were to speak about dharma, it is perhaps enough to say that dharma is that which sustains everything. The word dharma comes from the verbal root dhrik, which means dharan, or to sustain. So if we don't have the principal supporting element in all spheres of life, then things will collapse. So dharma is what upholds everything. It is what sustains everything. It is what makes everything wholesome, harmonious, joyful, and peaceful. You take away the dharmic element, you may have everything else in the material sphere. You may have technology, you may have economics, you may have sciences, you may have everything else. But if the dharmic element is taken away, then we lose something very vital. Without that, you will find a society that crumbles, that is fraught with many, many difficulties. I'll start with a little story from the Mahabharata to illustrate the times that we live in. And it's somewhat relevant as well to our topic for today. Once, during the time of Yudhishthira, there was a farmer. He purchased some agricultural land from another farmer. And after some days of cultivating that land, as he was tilling, his plow struck something in the soil. Upon digging a little deeper, he found there was a treasure chest. It was full of gold and mineral and precious stones, very, very expensive. So now, if one of us, perhaps in the modern day world, were to encounter such a thing, we would have probably felt this was a stroke of luck and we would have kept it. Most people would have done that. But this person said, no, this doesn't belong to me, because I only purchased the land. I didn't purchase this treasure. So he went to the previous owner of the land from whom he had purchased this land. And he took the treasure chest to him and said, "This is yours." And the previous owner, had he lived in today's times, he would have said, "Of course it's mine, give it to me." But he didn't do that. He said, "No, that's not right, it's not mine. I sold you the land, and therefore everything in the land is also yours. Neither you knew about it, nor I knew about it. But I sold you the land, and because the treasure chest was found in the land, therefore it belongs to you." So there was a quarrel between the two, a kind of a nice quarrel. We don't find such quarrels anymore, do we? We find quarrels for the opposite reasons, where people claim things are theirs when actually they don't belong to them. So the matter reached a stage when they came to Yudhishthir for adjudication, for some judicial decision. And Yudhishthir was perplexed. He said, "Look, the problem is both of you are too honest, so it's very hard to come up with a solution when you are very honest." So he didn't know what to do. So Lord Krishna was there. He consulted him. "What should I do?" He said, "Give them 3 months. Ask them to come back after 3 months." So they came back after 3 months. And sure enough, as Lord Krishna had hinted, they had changed. The person who had purchased the land began to say that this treasure belongs to me because I purchased the land. And the seller who had sold the land to this person said, no, I only sold him the land. I did not sell him the treasure." And then there was a quarrel now. There was a 180 degrees turn in what both of them were saying. And Yudhishthir was bewildered. What on earth has happened? Why this sudden turnaround? And then finally he asked Krishna, "So now, what do you say I should do?" So Lord Krishna gave him the decision. He said, "The treasure belongs neither to this farmer or to the other one. It belongs to the king, and you distribute this wealth and utilize it for the welfare of the state or the welfare of the people." Of course, even today there is a law that anything found below a certain depth in the land doesn't belong to you, even if you own the land. I don't know the technicalities of the law. Perhaps some lawyers may help us. But the more important point is, see the psychology of these two gentlemen before. What changed? So when Yudhishthir asked Krishna what changed, he said the age has changed. We are today in an age which is called Kali Yuga. Some of you may have heard this phrase. The word Kali, not Kali as in goddess Kali, but Kali as coming from the word Kalaha, which means quarrel. So this Kali Yuga is an age of quarrel. It is an age of hypocrisy. It is an age of adharma. So the onset of Kali Yuga was signified by the fact that the minds of these people had been polluted by this age. So therefore, for us who are attempting to move into careers of business, and even if we are not businessmen, we cannot separate ourselves from the implications of economic and business decisions, either our own or those of others. So we can see that we are indeed living in a very challenging time now, when the ambience itself is suffused, is surcharged with negativity, with greed, with anger, envy, hatred, quarrel, hypocrisy, and so on. And therefore it becomes a challenge when we want to speak about dharma in business. Is dharma at all possible in this day and age? And in business, when one is supposed to be driven by materialistic profit-making considerations. It's a very important point. But indeed, you see, the principles that are enjoined in our scriptures, the Vedas, they are not meant only for particular times. They are essentially fundamental principles that are meant for all times, places, and circumstance. The concept of dharma is not something that only relates to some ancient time. It is a vital, foundational principle for existence. All the laws of the universe that today we have in science ultimately stem from the foundational reality called Rita. The Rita refers to the foundational law, the laws of the of the universe. And when those laws are applied to human conduct, it's called dharma. So dharma refers to laws of conduct in a very simple way. So when human beings live together in a society, so it is very vital that they follow some norms, some rules and regulations. Imagine a society without laws, without rules. One time there was one gentleman who spoke to me. He said, look, you are following spirituality and religion, but it's okay. I'm also spiritual, but one thing I don't like is that you have too many do's and don'ts, too many rules. Spirituality should be free. It should be and not encumbered by restrictions because of rules and regulations. So I asked him, do you like sports? I saw some wonderful sport arrangements here. And by the way, this was one of the most impressive university campuses I have seen, and I have seen many. But I must say that this is amongst the most impressive campuses I have seen. Dr. Mohanty took me around to all the places, most of them at least. And one of the striking features was the sports facilities here. So in any case, I asked the gentleman, do you like sports? He said, yes. So I said, which one? He said, football. So I said, imagine that there are these 22 people on the field kicking a ball, and it's a free-for-all. There are no rules, no regulations, no laws, no referees, no umpires. What's going to happen on the field? He said, chaos. So precisely. Why would you not say that let the players be free? Why do you have this encumbrance of rules on the players? Why do you have this artificial imposition of rules? In order to maintain some semblance of law and order, rules are important. So similarly, even though instinctively we do not like to be subjected to restrictions and rules, the fact is that without them, human society will become chaotic. Everything will be destroyed. So dharma is what keeps society in shape, in place. Now, when we come to generation of wealth, certainly our scriptures do not decry the pursuit of wealth. Yes, it's fine. But there are rules and regulations that pertain to the generation, distribution, and utilization of wealth. That is what dharma is. Dharma is something that is so foundational to every sphere of our life. Now, there are three things when it comes to the generation of wealth or business. Because what is business ultimately? Business is that you have some economic activity, you invest some money, and then you have some business transactions, some commercial deals, and there are some profits hopefully at the end of it. And the person who is starting the business or doing it gets the money and spends it in whichever way he likes. Now there are three aspects of dharmic business. One is the motivation. The motivation means, why do you want to earn this money? Very important point. Second, the process. What are the means you will employ to earn this wealth? And third is the outcome. How are you going to spend the fruits of your labor? All the money that you get, the name and fame that you get as a result of being successful in your business endeavor, how are you going to utilize that? So these are the three important factors that are governed by dharma. You can do it either dharmically or you can do it adharmically. So let's take the first one of the three. So what are the three? The motivation, the process, and the outcome. So let's talk about the motivation. Let's say someone wants to have a startup or do any business, whether it's a small business or a large business or any kind of endeavor. Human endeavor must always have a purpose. There must be some motivation. So if the motivation is that I simply want to make money, and that's all there is to it, and as a result of this money I want to to procure all sorts of means for enjoyment in this world. I want position, I want power and prestige in this world. And that is the only thing that drives me. So therefore, this is not considered a valid system according to Dharma. You know, there are two words. I'm sure they are ordinary words and you're familiar with them. One is called labh. Labh means profit. And the other is called lobh. Lobh means greed. So it is quite all right to seek labh. It is not wrong to want to be wealthy, to be successful, to be ambitious. But these have to be circumscribed by certain boundaries. If you don't have that boundary set for you, very quickly one will flow into adharma. Then that pursuit of labh will go into lobh or greed, which can be exploitative and destructive even. So therefore, Dharma says, go for labh, no problem, but don't succumb to lobh, especially excessive lobh. So the idea is that business endeavors must be done because we need it for human survival. Without that, human society cannot exist. At the same time, what is the whole concept of money? Whose money? Whose business is this? And here we come to a very important concept, which is called the concept of trusteeship versus ownership. And I'll tell you another story about this. There was a king, and naturally, like many kings who are very wealthy and powerful, he was quite proud because he had accomplished so much. And he had a very intelligent minister. It's something like one of those Akbar Birbal stories that you may have read in your childhood. So he realized, the minister realized that the king is getting really very proud and arrogant. So we must do something to bring him down to earth and to make him understand the reality. To be well grounded is very important. So one time when the king went out for a walk in his palace gardens, which were very spacious and very beautiful, he came across this man who seemed like some kind of a mendicant, and he was lying across the street in the garden premises. And he was surprised. He said, "Who dares to come in my palace gardens and lie in such an insolent way over here in front of me, knowing that the king is going to walk on this path?" So in a rather rude fashion, he told the person to get up and go away. And the person, who was actually the minister in disguise, he just looked around and said, Why should I get up? So who are you? He said, "Don't you know I am the king?" So then the person lying on the street asked him, "So are you the owner of this palace?" He said, "Yes." "So before you, who owned this place?" He said, "My father, who was the king." "And before your father, who owned the place?" He said, "His father." "And before him, his father." "And who will own this palace after you?" He said, "My children will own it. And after them, their children." So this man who was lying on the road broke into uproarious laughter. And the king was even more enraged. As it is, he was upset that this person was talking to him in this manner. And now when he started laughing, he became enraged. and he took out his sword to attack him. And but he still said, let me try to understand why he's laughing. He said, why are you laughing? He said, this is not a palace. He said, this is a hotel. You are here for some time and you have the access to this palace. Before you, somebody else was there in this palace who called himself the claimant. Before him, there was somebody else, and after you, successively, there will be so many others. So therefore, you are living in a hotel. This belongs to none of you. You just come in like a hotel, check in, be there for a few days, leave. Somebody else comes into the same rooms, stays there for some time and leaves. The hotel remains, the rooms remain, but the people come and change. So also the palace remains, but you come and you go. Somebody else comes and goes. In other words, what the minister was trying to tell the king was that do not become proud that you are the owner of this palace and of this kingdom, because these are temporary possessions. And he said, actually everything belongs to God. So there is the concept of divine proprietorship and human trusteeship. Please try to get this carefully. Even in a trust, you all know of a trust, a charitable trust or any trust, you have people who are called trustees. Now these trustees, they don't own the properties of the trust, but they are given the responsibility to ensure that the properties and assets of the trust are used for the purposes of the trust. That is how they have to utilize their responsibility. So similarly, we have our wealth, we have our assets, we have our business, we have so many other things in life. We must recognize, according to the principles of Dharma, these two principles, divine ownership, human trusteeship. That fundamentally all these things are not ours. They were here before us, they will remain after us. But we are here for the small duration of our stay as trustees. So we are meant to look after this. In our Shastras, there is a principle or a concept called the Ishavasyam concept. The Isha Upanishad, and permit me for a small Sanskrit shloka. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincham jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha magadah kasya svindhanam. The meaning of this verse is that everything, animate and inanimate, everything in this creation has a divine origin. It belongs to the Supreme, to God. But we all have our quotas that are designated for us according to our past karmas. So therefore someone has a certain amount of intelligence, certain amount of wealth and capability and so on. And someone else has a different combination of all of these things. That is our quota. And we should be satisfied with our quota, and we should be satisfied with what honest endeavor brings, rather than being excessively greedy and succumbing to this principle of lobha. Labha is fine, but when we succumb to lobha, then we lose track of the dharmic principles, we lose track of the fact that I am a trustee. Then we actually try to become the owners. So if you're running a business or if you're participating in a business, it is very important to have this conception, the dharmic view of the ownership of the business. So therefore, if one's goal is first of all to make money for oneself, which is fair enough, it's a legitimate goal, not a problem at all. But if that remains the only goal, then we have a problem. Along with that, let there be another goal, that we want to utilize the business for doing good to others, for the welfare of others, for the community, for the society, for the environment, and so on and so forth. And we do these two things with the understanding of divine proprietorship and human trusteeship. So this is the first part of discussing Dharma in business. which is the motivation or the purpose, or why do we want to earn wealth. Second is the question of the process. How are you going to earn wealth? Now, there is a dharmic way to earn wealth. There is also an adharmic way to earn wealth. Now, for example, if you have, there is a famous joke about this group of bank robbers. They looted a bank and they had an agreement from before that whatever we loot will be shared equally amongst all of us. So there are 5 of us. Then if we loot 1 crore rupees, then each of us will get 20 lakh rupees. So that was their agreement. And they were successful in looting 1 crore rupees. And then they honestly divided the loot amongst themselves. So they were ethical, they were honest. But is there some flaw in this? Would anyone like to point out a flaw? So one can say, well, we were honest, we shared the loot equally. We had suggested, we had agreed that, we will all share the loot equally. We have kept our word. We are honest. Therefore, we are ethical. Would you have any objection to that? Any one of you? Yes. You can raise your hand.
I mean, they robbed the bank. That is not.
Sorry?
They robbed the bank. That is not ethical.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes, correct. Because the foundation for their so-called ethics itself was unethical. So if your foundation is unethical, your foundation is based on a falsehood, it is based on something that is wrong, and then after that you are very honest and ethical, that ethics doesn't have much value. Because your foundation was shaky, your foundation was faulty. So therefore, one has to see this principle of divine proprietorship and human trusteeship as the foundation, the foundational principle, and then you can talk about how to earn money. Beyond this foundational ethical principle of divine proprietorship and human trusteeship comes the idea that you must earn your money, your business activities must be ethical in nature. There must be some morality associated with it, which means you should not earn your money by exploitation, by cheating, by exploiting not just the human beings, but also animals, the environment, etc., etc. So this ethical way of earning money is something that is getting more and more difficult nowadays. Especially in our country, corruption has become so deep-rooted. I'm sure many of you are aware. And in the business world also, we see that happening in a very big way. There is a nexus between different wings of the business, the commercial world, and also between business and politics, business and bureaucracy, etc. This is unfortunate. You may have had or seen news reports over the years of how businesses or business owners have colluded with officials in banks and have caused enormous harm to the economy. They raise fraudulent financial documentation like false invoices. They falsely inflate the value of their assets, and they do so many things that are wrong, and the intention is to take a huge loan and have no intention of repaying it. Because of the principle of limited liability in corporations, I'm sure most of you are learning this principle in your company law. Yes, so the individual may not be the loser. The company is the loser, and ultimately it's the shareholders who lose. And the person who is a CEO or whatever, he takes the huge amount and vanishes. So when this goal or the ultimate principle of divine proprietorship and human trusteeship is lost sight of, you lose the ethical foundation for your business, then your only goal becomes lobe, and lobe. And in that case, then, there is no limit to how much you can do. This is a slippery slope down which everybody goes. In the 1980s or 90s, I don't remember exactly, there was a huge problem in the stock market in New York and in the whole of America. And people were going berserk in the stock markets. And they had a slogan which said, "Greed is God." So that was their principle. Greed is God. And because the urge to become wealthy was so strong, it overrode all ethical considerations. So when you don't have any deeper or higher goal in life, and the only thing you understand about your life is that I have to earn more and more money, and I have to enjoy life, eat, drink, and be merry. When this becomes the only principle or the foundational philosophy of your life, then how can we expect ethics, not just in business, but in any other sphere of life? I will share a personal experience as well with all of you. More than 30 years ago, I had a friend. He's still there. And he was in the stock market in India. And he had just begun his career. And there was one big operator in the stock market who was known to him. And he approached him saying that, "Look, I have this scheme. And we can all become enormously wealthy if we do this." And so my friend found it very, very tempting. And he said, "Okay, it sounds very good. I'm going to earn in those days, crores and crores of rupees." For a person coming from a middle class family to suddenly get the opportunity to earn many crores in a short amount of time was something that was very tempting. At the same time, because he was coming to our temple, he was meeting with all of us, and he was my friend, so he came and he said, "Look, I have this proposal that somebody has given to me. He's one of the big players in the stock market. And he's saying if you do this, and this, then we can get crores of rupees." So definitely alarm bells rung in my mind, because if you want to have a lot of money very quickly at high risk, it's very, very likely that it is something that is illegal or unethical or both. And therefore that will have troublesome consequences. So then I asked him, "Please explain to me what this scheme is about." And I started asking him some pointed questions. And within a short time it became clear that this scheme was illegal. And I told him, "Please do not do this. You will be in trouble. It will cause you a lot of trouble. Stay away." So he was very disappointed, because he was very young and passionate and wanted to make it big in his career. At the same time, he also wanted to follow Dharma properly. So he was caught. In Sanskrit, it's called a Dharma Sankat. He didn't know what to do. But out of friendship, and he didn't want to make me feel bad, so he said, "Okay, I'll go and think about it." After a few days, he again came. "Have you changed your mind?" he asked me. I said, "No, I haven't changed my mind. I'm very clear. Please stay away from this. This spells trouble for you, big trouble." And so then he said, "Look, whatever I get, I'll give 50% to the temple." So I said, "No, God doesn't want this kind of wealth from you. God wants your devotion. He doesn't want you to do these illegal and unethical activities which will cheat thousands of others who will suffer because of this. So no, let's not do it." So it was good luck. He listened and he told this other man, "Sorry, I can't do this." And after a few months, this scam broke out. It was headline news in the newspapers in those days. And that man was arrested and he was in jail. And he went to jail for many, many years. I don't know ultimately how many years and what happened to the case. But when he was in jail, that man called up his wife and told his wife to talk to my friend and tell him that you're very lucky that you listened to your people in the temple, in the mutt, in the monastery. Because see, out of greed, I succumbed, and see where I am now. My reputation is gone. All my money is taken away. My family is in shambles. My whole life is destroyed, all because of this greed. So this greed is God business is a very, very dangerous thing. Therefore, it needs people who are dharmically inclined. It needs people who can guide us, who can mentor us about what we should be doing and what we should not be doing, even in the field of business. So we also see that when it comes to earning money, people nowadays think it's a casual thing. Corruption has become so casual in our country. We don't think twice. We don't blink an eye before we bribe somebody or before somebody takes a bribe. So actually, it's something very unethical because it exploits those who are honest. It penalizes those who are honest and makes them suffer. And eventually, those who cheat, those who exploit, they earn a lot. But an important dharmic principle, a spiritual principle, is that exploitative acts, unethical acts, cruelty eventually brings its results. And no one can escape the results of one's karma. So all the unethical things that are done by people to earn more money out of greed and a passion to just enjoy because they think that that is the standard of success, that is the standard of happiness, eventually that karma will come around to bite them. This is a very important point. So when it comes to the dharmic process of earning money, we have to keep in mind that if we neglect the principles of dharma and ethics in making our money, eventually it will come back to haunt us. Actually, there is a section, there was a beautiful book I had read many years ago. I've forgotten the details now. And it mentioned how different types of adharmic activities would end up, what kind of lifespan they would have. The businesses that started with where the earning was adharmic, for how long would they sustain and what would be the consequences. No such business lasts for long. I hope somebody does some research and comes up with more data from the corporate world about how different types of businesses flourished like a meteor or shooting star for a while. They shone brightly, but then they disappeared because these things do not sustain. Adharma cannot sustain. Adharma will bring about the downfall of those who practice it. So, for those who want to earn money, no harm in earning money. But it is important to keep these things in mind, which we have just discussed. Never mind if you think that you're going to get less money now by following an ethical path. But keep in mind the story that I just told you. Even if you get more money, the price you have to pay for it later will be so high, it is not worth it. So better to go down the straight dharmic path. And if your destiny permits it, you will become wealthy. You see, there is something called destiny. There is something called fate. You may call it naseeb, you may call it any word, kismat, bhagya, but there is something like that. You may call it luck or bad luck. So therefore, be satisfied with what destiny brings in its wake and be satisfied with your own honest, intelligent endeavor. Once you have done that, then be balanced, then be equipoised. So now we come to the third point, which is the outcome. First was the the motivation. The second is the process, and the third is the outcome. That once you earn your money and you have got the money with you, then what do you do with it? How do you spend it? How do you utilize it? How do you distribute it? That's very important. The utilization phase of the wealth. And by the way, there's one point I just forgot when it comes to earning. When you're in the process of earning, not only should you not be exploitative, and not only should you not cheat, but you also have to balance your life and the different departments of your life. The modern day corporate culture is such that it makes you work exceedingly hard, sometimes 12, 13, 14 hours. I know people in the corporate world who work actually 14, 15 hours a day, and they go to work even on Sundays. I have seen a better corporate culture in the Western countries, where at least there is some kind of a work-life balance. Somehow in India, which is the land of spirituality and Dharma, here people lose control, and they just overdo things to such a degree that they burn out, and there are severe cases of health problems and stress-related issues in the corporate world because we have not been able to balance out our thirst for wealth. So whether it is our health, whether it is our family, whether it is our other interests that we want to pursue in life, it is important that we strike the proper work-life balance in the process of earning money. So this is a part of the process of earning money. Now coming to the spending part of it. If one has started out with the wrong foundation, that success in life means that I should get a lot of money and I should enjoy life, I should be flying from all the hot spots in the world, I should be enjoying in all the 5-star hotels and partying and drinking and eating and so on and so forth. If that is our philosophy of life, if the foundational principles are faulty, then everything else we build on that will also be faulty, just like in the case of those bank robbers. So if the motivation is wrong, it is philosophically, spiritually, dharmically wrong, then the earning stage can never be correct. So then we will spend all this money, which has been ill-gotten in any case, and spend it for all kinds of hedonistic purposes. Once the money comes, Dharmic principles state, our Vedic scriptures state, that it has to be divided into the following categories. One part of the amount that you earn or your business earns, either you as an individual or for your business. You should keep a certain part for yourself and your family. Or if it's a company, keep a certain part for the company's expenses and so on. Second, you should keep it also for reinvesting in the business. And if you are an individual, you should save up something for the future. So that's the second element of how you should utilize your money. The third is that you should utilize it for some kind of charitable purpose, some sharing. It is very important to learn the principles of detachment and balance by parting with one's hard-earned money for a good cause, not for the wrong cause, but for a good cause. That brings about a sense of balance, a sense of detachment within us, which is very important, because the more we are attached, the more miserable we are. So we share it. And finally, according to our scriptures, wealth has to be utilized for a larger spiritual, social cause. So therefore, if your money is being earned for the right reasons, in the right manner, and disbursed or spent in the right manner, as we have discussed, you are doing business according to dharmic principles. In short, this is it. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Bhagavad Gita. You have all heard of the text, Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have heard of the book Bhagavad Gita? Please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. And how many of you have heard of a certain concept in the Bhagavad Gita which is called the three modes of nature? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. How many of you have heard? Oh, that's very nice. So I'm very, very happy to see this. You see, this is a very important conceptual tool that the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic scriptures give us to analyze anything and everything in this world. You can classify or categorize anything according to these three modes. For example, a cow is in the mode of goodness. A tiger is in the mode of passion. A donkey or a camel is in the mode of ignorance. You get a sense of it. Even though I have not explained to you what Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are, but you're getting a sense already with just one example. A pub where there's a lot of drinking going on, prostitution going on, it's in Tamas, mode of ignorance. The city life with cinemas and people running around to earn is Rajas, in the mode of passion. A place which is in the countryside with lots of greenery, trees, a very serene environment, and people engaged in very studious activities or philosophical activities, that's Sattva, in the mode of goodness. So I think with these few examples, you're already getting a grip or an understanding of what this concept is. Just as there are three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And when you combine these different colors in different permutations and combinations, you can get all possible colors in existence. So similarly, we live in a world of infinite variety. And all these varieties can be expressed in terms of various permutations and combinations of these three gunas, as they are called in Sanskrit. The modes of nature, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So therefore, let's try to apply very briefly now, before I conclude, the principle of Sattva, goodness, Rajas, passion, and Tamas, ignorance, to principles of business. Sattva actually is characterized by purity, by serenity, by calmness, by contentment, by knowledge, by light. And business or activities done in the mode of goodness or Sattva will actually generate contentment and joy and satisfaction. So if one has earned money by virtuous means, by dharmic principles, without cheating, without adulterating in whatever you sell, without exploiting anyone, and then that is money earned in the sattvic way, the mode of goodness, and when you spend it for yourself, for peace and happiness for yourself and for the community, then that is expenditure in sattva, in the mode of goodness. Money that is earned by passion and aggression is called rajas. Money earned in the mode of passion. And if it is spent only for one's own enjoyment, for one's prestige and one's personal benefit, then that expenditure is also in the mode of passion. Tamas, or the mode of ignorance, is characterized by duplicity, cheating, violence, cruelty, and money that is earned by tamasic means in the mode of ignorance, if it is spent for causing harm to others, it is being spent to spite some other people, it is being spent to denounce God, It is being spent to sow confusion and chaos in the world. If it is characterized by proliferating intoxication and all kinds of things which make people even go deeper into ignorance, then that is expenditure in the mode of ignorance. So essentially, dharmic business or dharma in business implies that while some degree of rajas or the mode of passion is important, because you need some ambition, you need some drive, you need some initiative to do something. If you don't have drive, then you'll just be laid back and you won't be able to achieve anything in your life. So some degree of rajas is important. However, there should be no tamas. That will pull everything down, and that rajas should also be heavily touched by sattva, or the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is what will temper you. When you start getting all excited about that new contract which will earn you crores of rupees in a very short time, and you have to cut corners with the law and everything like that, then the sattva in you will come up and say, calm down, take it easy. No, we should not be doing that. It's going to get me into trouble later. But it's not right that I should do this. So dharma in business implies largely a sattvic approach which has some amount of rajas, because without rajas you can't have business activity going on in a very strong manner. So in other words, we can see that our culture, our philosophy gives us so much information. So all of you are on the cusp of your careers right now. You're in the university. You are in such a wonderful place, not only physically in terms of the ambience, but also in terms of the academic ambience. You also have very wonderful and inspirational faculty who are teaching you and looking after you and ensuring your future welfare. So do keep these things in mind. Do consider these points when you step out into your career. Remember, money is important, but it's not everything. Enjoyment, there is a place for it in life, but it's not everything. So whatever you do, whether it's professionally, personally, socially, economically, or in any sphere, try to see that you circumscribe it with the boundary of dharma. And then your life will be sublime and successful. I want to thank Professor Mohanty for having invited me here. He called me up. We knew each other 35 years ago, I think, and then we lost touch for many years. And one fine day, about a year ago, he just called me up. Not even a year ago, maybe a few months ago. And we renewed our contact after decades. So it was such a pleasure seeing him and knowing that he has now transitioned from corporate life to academic life, as I believe is Professor Kumar Mohanty, who has also transitioned from corporate life to academic life. So thank you also very much, and for doing all that you're doing, as all the other faculty members and staff here, and also to each and every one of you. I could only notice 2 people sleeping. Apart from that, every one of you was awake. So I thank you all very much for your attentiveness. Thank you. All the best for the future. Do we have time for questions?
Namaste, His Holiness. I'm Aditi. I had a question related to motivation when you mentioned that we should have a pure mind when we go forward with certain intentions. So now that we are aware about the fact that this is Kali Yuga and we should close all our karmic accounts and we should perform only good karmas and restrain ourselves from performing any sins possible. So the fact that I'm aware about this knowledge now, so my intention is that I have to complete my karmic accounts. Just for the sake of doing it, I'm completing it. So is that that motivation is pure or not?
You see, everything, good question. Everything is based on knowledge. Any field of life, whatever you want to do, the foundation is knowledge. Whether it's business, cooking, driving, anything, you need some knowledge of how to do that. So similarly, when we speak about life and all its different divisions like business, family, etc., health, so we must have knowledge of dharmic principles. So it is very important for us to cultivate this knowledge in the association of those who have knowledge. Just like you are here to learn about business management and related topics, because you have faculty members who are knowledgeable and experienced in this. So they can share their experience and knowledge with you, you gain it, and then you go out into your life and actually experience it. So therefore, by such exposure to this kind of knowledge, one will get a deeper understanding of what these dharmic principles actually mean, what kind of motivation and principles are we talking about, how can we lead a clean life, because we can't obviously cover everything in one session. So the more you get exposed to this knowledge, you will find yourself entering a universe of many wonderful things. So I wish you a very wonderful journey ahead in this field. Thank you. Yes.
हरे कृष्ण गुरु महाराज, दंडवत प्रणाम। गुरु महाराज, मेरा नाम अंशु है और मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि अगर हम, जैसे आपने कि वो लूटेड वाला एग्जांपल दिया, तो अगर हम बिना मोटिवेशन के अगर लूट लेते हैं, मतलब किसी बैंक को, बट हमारा आउटकम्स जो है, जैसे आपने बोला कि हाउ शुड वी यूटिलाइज आवर मनी, तो अगर हम उस मनी से अगर अच्छे कर्म कर रहे हैं, अगर हम मंदिरों के लिए कर रहे हैं, भगवान के लिए कर रहे हैं, तो इज इट राइट और रॉन्ग?
So your question is that if the money is earned in an adharmic way, but we're using the money in a dharmic way, is it okay? Yes, that's the question?
Yes.
As a general rule, no, it is not okay. And that is what came out in that story which I shared with you about me with my friend more than 30 years ago. Right? If that becomes the case, then everybody is going to take recourse to this in the name of using the money for something good. So generally, all three processes, all three steps in the process of dharmic business, motivation, process and outcome, have to be in accordance with dharmic principles. Then it will be fine. Okay? Yes, one question here.
Namaste, His Holiness. My name is Divyasha. How can I keep a mindful self in this chaotic world where everything in the external is affecting us and we have to perform despite all of that? How to keep a mindful self in that?
How to keep a mindful
Body and mind in the process.
in the midst of all the
Chaos, and we have to still perform. So how do we do that?
Good question. Be the center of the storm. Don't be the cause of the storm. But you know, the safest place in a storm? The center. So, in any case, yes, the world around us is experiencing stormy weather. We cannot control the world, but we can control ourselves and our response to the world. The solutions lie within. And to the degree that we follow the dharmic principles, we will be able to make that change in the world. I think someone famously said, be the change you want the world to be, right? Something like that. So, if we want the world to be a better place, the effort must begin from home, from ourselves. If we do that, regardless of the degree to which we are successful, we are successful. So the effort has to begin here. We follow our spiritual practices. It's very important to do that. That will help us to keep our head cool and balanced in the midst of the storms all around us. It will help us to be very attentive in our studies, to be more focused and concentrated, and it will give us a clear head to make proper decisions in our life. So, performing spiritual practices like chanting the names of God, etc., is very, very important. And in this university, you have that opportunity. I have seen so many beautiful places. Just now also I saw a temple of Lord Jagannath here. And so many students are going there and they are learning so many things there. So opportunities are there in this very exceptional university. You are fortunate. So take advantage of it. All right? Okay. Thank you all very much.